You know, when you see a bird singing or a dog wagging its tail, it's easy to think it's just simple information being shared. But what if it's something more? What if it's actually a high-stakes battleground? Well, today we're diving into the absolutely fascinating and often ruthless world of animal communication. So let's just jump right in with the big question, the one that scientists have been wrestling with for decades. When one animal sends a signal to another, are they cooperating? Are they sharing useful info for the good of both? Or is it a strategic move in a brutal competition for food, mates, and just plain survival? Yeah, the answer is way more complicated than you might think.
So, to really get to the bottom of this, here's our game plan. First, we're going to define what communication even is. Then, we'll dive headfirst into that core debate. Is it cooperation or manipulation? After that, we'll look at why animals are often honest, why they sometimes lie, and how this whole thing boils over into what we call an endless evolutionary arms race. Let's do it.
All right, first things first. Before we can understand the game, we really have to know the rules. What do biologists actually mean when they say animals are communicating? Okay, here's the classic definition. Let's break it down. You have a sender who sends a signal. Now, a signal isn't just any old thing. It's a behavior or a trait that has specifically evolved to carry a message. Think of it like this. A mouse rustling in the leaves? That's just a cue an owl might use. The mouse didn't mean to do it. But a bird's alarm call? That's a signal. It's designed to be heard by a receiver with one goal in mind, changing that receiver's behavior. It's all about an action designed to cause a reaction.
So, with that definition locked in, let's get to the real heart of the matter. This is where the story gets really juicy, because it pits two completely different views of animal communication against each other. For a long time, the classic view was pretty wholesome. It saw communication as this good faith, mutual exchange of information, everyone helping each other out. But the more modern view, well, it's a bit more cynical. It reframes the whole thing as an evolutionary arms race. You've got manipulative senders trying to exploit receivers, and in response, you get these skeptical, mind-reading receivers who are constantly trying to see through the lies. So you might be wondering, okay, if it's an arms race, why doesn't manipulation just take over completely? Well, evolution has this amazing built-in fact checker. If a signal becomes too dishonest, too manipulative, then receivers will just be naturally selected to ignore it. For any communication system to actually survive over time, both the sender and the receiver have to get some benefit out of it, at least on average. The whole system has to have some basic integrity to it. And that brings up a really good point. Given this constant push and pull, what are the big evolutionary forces that actually keep animals honest? Well, the simplest reason for telling the truth is just common interest, right? If both the sender and the receiver want the exact same thing, there's literally no reason to lie. And where do you find the most powerful common interest in nature? Family. Shared genes are the ultimate glue for honest communication. And the way this works is through something called kin recognition. It's pretty much what it sounds like. The ability to figure out who your relatives are and treat them differently, usually a lot better than you treat strangers. This ability is the key that unlocks all sorts of incredible cooperation, including some of the most honest signaling on the planet. And there is no better example of this than the honeybee waggle dance. I mean, this is just one of the most incredible things in nature. When a forager bee gets back to the hive, it performs this amazingly complex dance. The angle of the dance tells her sisters the direction of the food source relative to the sun. And the length of the waggle part of the dance tells them exactly how far away it is. It's unbelievably precise. And it's always honest. Why? Because every bee in that hive is a super close relative, and they are all working for the survival of the colony's shared genes. How cool is that? But, of course, honesty is only half the story. The animal kingdom is absolutely teeming with liars, con artists, and master manipulators. So let's flip the coin and look at why and when deception really pays off. Okay, everybody, meet our villain for this section, the fork-tailed drongo. This bird, found in the Kalahari Desert, is an absolute master of deception, and it's developed an ingenious strategy to get a free lunch by hijacking the communication of other animals. And check this out. Look at the data here. The top graph shows the drongo's own alarm call, but the graph right below it, that's the drongo perfectly mimicking the alarm call of a completely different species, the glossy starling. They're practically identical. The drongo has literally hacked their language. So when it sees another animal, like a meerkat, find some tasty food, it just lets out a fake alarm call. The poor meerkat panics, drops its food, and runs, and the drongo swoops in for an easy meal.
It's a textbook case of a sender manipulating a receiver for a purely selfish gain. So what we have are these two powerful opposing forces, intense pressure, to be honest, and huge potential rewards for being deceptive, often happening in the very same place. So what's the result of all this conflict? A dynamic, nonstop evolutionary struggle.
And this gets us to the core concept of the evolutionary arms race. You have senders constantly evolving signals that are more persuasive, more manipulative, and at the exact same time, you have receivers evolving better and better defenses, smarter brains, sharper senses to see through the deception. It's this constant back and forth, this one-upsmanship of adaptation and counter-adaptation playing out over thousands of generations.
A really powerful and kind of grim example of this plays out in some primate societies. So here's the problem. A new dominant male takes over a group, and he might try to kill the infants that were fathered by the old leader. So what's the female's countermove? It's a brilliant piece of counter-espionage. She might mate with lots of different males. This creates confusion about who the real father is. If a male thinks an infant could be his, he's way less likely to harm it. But the arms race doesn't stop. The males then evolve to pay attention to other, subtler cues to try and figure out their actual chances of being the father. It's like a strategic game of poker with the highest possible stakes.
So what have we seen? Animal communication is so much more than a simple exchange of facts. It's this incredibly complex world of cooperation and conflict, of honesty and manipulation, of senders and skeptical receivers. And all of this leads us to one final huge question. If the biological roots of all communication are tangled up in this evolutionary arms race, where does that leave us? Where does that leave our own uniquely complex and powerful form of communication, human language?